It showed up overnight wedged into the cove like it had been dropped from the sky. The tide was low when the first dog walker saw it, black, angular, and utterly out of place. The object looked like a small military submarine, but there was no distress signal, no naval markings, just a thick coat of salt and rust clinging to its underbelly like barnacles. By sunrise, word had spread. Locals gathered along the cliffs, phones in hand, watching waves lap against the strange vessel. Some thought it was a training exercise gone wrong. Others claimed it was a Cold War relic pushed ashore by the storm last week. By mid-morning, yellow tape had gone up and the Coast Guard arrived in an unmarked black truck. No insignias, no interviews. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The guards wore plain, dark uniforms and didn't say much, just took pictures, made calls, and occasionally glanced toward the horizon. 2 divers entered the water but resurfaced minutes later, shaking their heads. "No propellers," one was overheard saying. "No drive system we can see." Julia, a reporter for the local paper, tried to get close. They asked her to leave the beach entirely, but before she left, she zoomed in with her camera and noticed something odd. The hatch was already open, not wide, but just enough to suggest someone might have exited or entered. The Coast Guard hadn't opened it yet, or so they claimed. Julia snapped a photo and drove straight to the office. Something about the vessel didn't feel military. It felt like a prototype. The photo made it to Twitter before noon. That's when things really changed. A user from Spain replied, "That's not a submarine. We had one wash up in Galicia in 2019. The government took it, and we never heard a word after." Another user posted diagrams classified-looking PDFs with sections labeled Experimental Hull Integrity Zones and Uncrewed Entry Pods. Julia's inbox flooded within hours. The Coast Guard increased their presence the next day. More tape, more silence. But Julia was persistent. She requested flight logs from the nearest military base knowing had flown that route in days. She called a retired Navy engineer who examined her photo and muttered, "That's not ours." He asked if the inside had been opened yet. Julia said no. He paused. "Then don't assume it's empty." That night, a second hatch was found, smaller, at the rear. When opened, it revealed a metal passage no wider than a vent. No seats, no equipment, no tech panels, just smooth metal and a faint chemical odor. A guard was overheard saying, "If it's unmanned, where's the transmitter?" No one answered. Julia returned to the beach early the next morning. But something had changed. The vessel was still there, but now its front hatch was fully open. No announcement had been made, no public update, and the inside was dark. Julia wasn't the only one who noticed. A drone operator flew in low and caught a brief view down the corridor. What he saw made his hands shake. He showed Julia the footage later. Rows of smooth black seats bolted down, but no controls. There were 11 seats, all empty, all facing forward. Nothing else. No lights, no wires, no steering mechanism, just a room made for people but no way for them to steer. A marine biologist from the local university claimed the shape of the hull was hydrodynamically impossible. No rudders, no propulsion, and yet it had moved. Somehow, and no barnacles meant it had only recently entered saltwater. The story exploded. News vans arrived. A few officials gave brief, unsatisfying statements. Under investigation, no radiation, not a threat. But one off-record comment stuck with Julia. "It's sealed in ways we can't explain, not welded, no bolts, just pressure." On the 4th day, the Coast Guard cleared everyone from the site, citing a chemical leak. Locals were skeptical. The beach was blocked, but the ocean was not. That night, Julia received an email from a burner account. It included coordinates, a timestamp from 3 months ago, and a satellite photo. The photo showed a small, object-dark, angular drifting in international waters off the coast of Mauritania. The object's shape was unmistakable. It had drifted nearly 3,000 miles with no known power. "They've been tracking it for weeks," the message read. "Don't believe the leak story." The next morning, the object was gone. New waves, new crane marks, new cleanup crew, just sand, rock, and questions. Julia reviewed her photos over and over. Something still didn't add up. She enlarged the shot of the rear panel just before the Coast Guard sealed it. A small marking was faintly visible etched, not painted. not in English, just two symbols. One resembled a triangle, the other a spiral. Julia took the image to a linguist at the university. He didn't recognize it but pulled out a binder of pre-language glyphs found in caves, stone tablets, and one alleged artifact recovered from the Tunguska region in 1908. This symbol, he said, pointing to the spiral, is tied to theories of time and displacement. Julia asked what kind. He didn't answer right away. It could be a warning or a return address. Later that week, a freelance diver came forward. He'd snuck in at night before the object vanished. He claimed there were footprints in the sandbar, human-sized, leading away from the vessel and stopping 15 feet inland. No return tracks, no debris, just one-way prints. He said he filmed it, but the footage was corrupted. Julia didn't believe him until he showed her the audio, faint, rhythmic tapping, coming from underwater. The diver's watch had synced to the sound 2 taps every 6 seconds. The same rhythm looped for 8 minutes, then stopped. Julia overlaid the sound against Morse code. It wasn't random. It repeated 2 letters, S and R. She shared the info with the linguist. He went pale. That's the same sequence found carved on a 14th century shipwreck off the Azores. But that wreck had no known country of origin. 2 weeks later, Julia was approached by someone claiming to be from a maritime salvage firm. He offered to buy her footage, everything. No names, no NDA, just $75,000 in cash. She refused. He left her a card with a number. The next day, the number was disconnected. She kept the footage. She also kept the drone pilot's footage, which was later deleted from every cloud backup. Somehow, the cove was quiet now. No visitors, no press. Locals moved on. Some chalked it up to experimental tech. Others called it a hoax. Julia didn't publish everything, just enough to keep it alive. She still hikes to the cliffs once a week, still looks down at the rocks, still wonders how something so obviously made for people could show up without anyone admitting they built it. She still doesn't know if the symbols were a signature, a destination, or something else entirely. But she often thinks about the spiral, the diver's audio, the empty seats, the sand without return prints. And she wonders if it wasn't meant to arrive. Maybe it was meant to pick someone up,